parallel structure, suspect 6. Remember, these are what we're looking for in your essays and when you're speaking, because they're pretty common errors and they're very easy to remove with practice. Now, parallelism, as it's also known, here we're going to look at 6 cases. Now, there are others, but it's important that you remember we often use a list in academic essays to provide multiple pieces of information in a single sentence. The rule is simple. Always try to make each element in the list as similar in structure as possible. Okay, as similar in structure as possible. Think about that. We have parts in a list and we need to look at each element within the list and make sure that it's okay. We're going to look at 6 cases. Case 1, multiple objects of a verb. So remember, subject, verb, object, or sometimes we have subject, verb, objects. In other words, multiple objects connected to a verb. Case 2, multiple relative clauses where we use that or which or perhaps who to add information. It might be essential information or it might be non-essential information, but whatever it is, we need to make sure that there is an element of parallelism there. We'll look at that in the upcoming slides. Multiple adverbs, case 3. Case 4, multiple adjectives. I'm sure you're all okay with adverbs and adjectives. Adverbs add information to verbs or adjectives, and adjectives add information to nouns. Case 5, multiple verbs done by an agent. Okay, so subject, verb, object, but maybe the subject does more than one verb. You might want to communicate that. Very important that the issue is not a parallel structure grammar error. Case 6, multiple verbs done to an object. Subject, verb, object, but maybe there's more than one verb that the object receives. Let's look now at multiple objects of a verb and multiple relative clauses. So we're going to look at both of these on this slide. Example 1, my neighbor reads poetry, magazine articles, and blog posts to her dog. So the read here is the verb, okay? Subject, verb, object. The neighbor is doing the reading, so she's the subject, he's the subject. Reads is the verb, and of course poetry, 1, magazine articles, 2, blog posts, 3, lucky dog. So multiple objects there. Example 2, the senator opposes, all right, senator is subject, opposes is your verb. And now we have slightly more complicated elements within our different parts. Discrimination of any kind, impoliteness among dinner guests, and vulgarity in public. But let's look at how similar each part of this is. Discrimination is a noun, impoliteness is a noun, vulgarity is a noun. In each part then you have additional information to describe, for example, which type of discrimination, where or which type of impoliteness we're talking about, and where or which type of vulgarity. So you might not be able to make it the same number of words or absolutely perfect, but you see there that as close as possible, we make each part of the list as grammatically similar as we can. Case 2, multiple relative clauses. Here we're going to use a that and a which clause. I'll explain it in detail. Example 3, after winning the scholarship to Stanford, Vitali refused to focus on activities. Now, if we just finish the sentence there, it doesn't make sense. We need to know which activities. Therefore, it's what we call a defining relative clause. So, activities that, firstly, reduced his ability to focus, distracted him from his studies, or put him in compromising situations. Again, let's look at the structure of each part. Reduced, distracted, put. They're all verbs and they're all in the past tense here. His, him, him. Okay, so we've got the same subject here. We've got as in the same person that we're talking about, Vitali. Then some additional information. Ability to focus from his students in compromising situations. So again, think about this when you're creating a list. Don't be too worried about it. Think in terms of, especially early on, is it a verb? Is it a noun? How do I complete it so that we have parallelism? Nice. Example 4. We love people who criticize, argue, cajole, and persuade. Remember, if you're not sure of the meaning of any of the words that come up in this presentation, pause it. Take time from the lesson to improve your vocabulary. Vocabulary is another vital part of your TOEFL journey. The more your vocab increases, the better chance you have of a good score. So we love people who, well, here is a very simple list. 4 verbs. Who criticize, who argue, who cajole, who persuade. Notice how you can carry through each of the words that are highlighted into each part of the list. That's another thing to remember to check that you've done this correctly. Let's go back to example 1. Reads poetry, reads magazine articles, reads blog posts. Good. Opposes discrimination, opposes impoliteness, opposes vulgarity. Good. Doesn't take long to check this. That reduces, that distracted, that put. Okay? And finally, who criticize, who could argue, who cajole, and who persuade. Case 3 is multiple adverbs. Case 4 is multiple adjectives. For example, 5. Unfortunately for the doctor, most of her patients communicate emotionally, irrationally, selfishly. Okay, they're all adverbs, but we can just check it. Communicate emotionally, good. Communicate irrationally, great. And communicate selfishly. Everything's parallel. Example 6. Poker players are typically cool, calm, and rational decision makers. Okay, so they're decision makers who are cool, they're decision makers who are calm, they're decision makers who are rational. Cool decision makers, cool is an adjective, decision makers is being modified by the adjective cool. Calm, rational, calm decision makers, rational decision makers. Everything is parallel. Good job. Finally, multiple verbs. Okay, now if you've got multiple verbs, they could be done by an agent, which is case 5, or done to an object, which is case 6. So, example 7 for case 5. Each morning during her holiday, Magda stretched, Magda jogged, Magda relaxed on the beach by her hut. Great. Everything is parallel. Now notice that Magda is the agent. She does each of those verbs. Example 8, case 6. Having published his white paper, who published the white paper? The politician. We'll talk about introductory clauses very soon. The politician was both attacked and lauded by his supporters. So in other words, we know that the politician was attacked and we know that the politician was lauded. Pause the video if you're not sure of that vocabulary, of course, as always. Everything's parallel. We can make sure that we don't repeat when we're writing the things that are highlighted. It's just a test to make sure that the first part of each of the list is parallel.